Please stand clear of the doors.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm usually behind the camera, but I was the only one who could get a park reservation for today for the pass holder preview of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is coming out to some middling reviews, I'd say. I think that's kind of the general consensus. A part of me understands why, a part of me doesn't. Splash Mountain has kind of an interesting history, if you will. You know, it opened in '89, and initially, from what I understand, it was meant to be a complimentary piece to the Country Bear Jamboree. You know, they wanted something else in Frontierland to bring people in that particular area. And they were like, what about a flume ride? And then looking at what might fit with the bears, you know, and the overall theme, it's like, how about Splash Mountain? How about we pull something from Song of the South? And that'll never be an issue. You know, and at the time, I guess the rationale was like, hey, we really like the animated segments. If we just use material from that and nothing else, there'll never be a problem. And obviously that wasn't the case. Now, to the Imagineers' credit, I think what they did with Splash Mountain was build something that was pretty self-contained. You know, I doubt many people have seen Song of the South. I might have seen it when I was a kid, but nothing really registered with me. Now I've just seen clips, you know, and stuff like that. However, it obviously didn't help as far as the material came from. Because, I mean, the movies was made in the 40s, about a period right after the Civil War on a plantation. That was never going to go over well. And, you know, maybe Disney could have made an argument for the historical significance of the film, you know, as well as the time period it took place and what they were intending to do with it. But, as soon as you remove that, the film from home video and don't release it and don't kind of acknowledge it, then you don't have an argument to make. It's game over. So the writing was on the wall there. And then I have no doubts that they had plans to redo Splash Mountain beforehand. However, after the George Floyd incident and the protests, then Disney was like, oh my God, hello? Yes, we're changing our rides in California and Orlando. Sir, what about Tokyo? Don't worry about it. But here we are, years later, following I don't know if it's beloved movie from 15 years ago, The Princess and the Frog. I mean, at the time, I saw the movie once when it came out, and I remember next to nothing about it. So it obviously didn't leave a lasting impact on me. But I remember seeing it and thinking, oh, nice, a 2D animated Disney film. We're finally going to see a resurgence of those. So the story of Tiana's Bayou Adventure is that it takes place after the film. She has her own restaurant, a chain maybe the restaurant. I don't know. I feel like I learned a lot more about the ride by reading articles before the actual ride itself. And that goes for a lot of rides too, of course. But also that might be an issue with the ride story, but we'll get into that. Anyway, there's a celebration going on, everyone's invited, and she's looking for special spice, I guess. And from what I could gather, always a good sign when you just get off a ride and you're like, from what I can gather, you know, we're going around, we see a lot of, vegetables and ingredients and stuff like that. The decor is pretty cool. It's not like a far cry from what we've seen in Splash Mountain. In fact, it might be a little darker as far as the visual aesthetic anyway. But it's very pretty. They have some really nice smells, earthy smells. I like that. I'm a big fan of good smells. We're introduced to all the characters, stuff like that. Animals are playing and stuff playing instruments. It's very cute. You know, it's very charming, I think. The animatronics look very good. I heard they've been having some issues with it working, but there's no issues today. And at some point, Is it Odie? Is that her name? I want to say Mama Odie. I don't know if that's right. The little old lady that's always in these Disney pictures. She shrinks us. We're shrunken. So in Splash Mountain, when you go to the laughing place, where you're tricking Brer Bear and Fox, here we're shrunken down, and this is probably the most disappointing room. Well, because like the idea that you're going to be shrunk in this ride is not made apparent at all, and I think that's something you kind of have to build towards. That's a train, and like dinosaur. They set it up that you're going to go back, so many million years in the past and find a dinosaur. Boom. That's everything you need to know about the ride. When you try to set up story during the ride, it's a little bit tougher. For example, I love Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewinds, but what is going on in that ride? Obviously we're jumping through like portals and stuff like that, but I don't really know. And for that ride, I don't really care either. It's just a wicked roller coaster. Anyway, so here you're shrunken down, I guess to find some more spices in the room, which was initially the laughing place, is now like you're small and all the creatures you see are big. And that's a really awesome idea, except that I think you just see some frogs, and then Tiana pops her head in there, but it's just a giant screen. And I'm like, how cool would it have been if they made a giant Tiana animatronic a la King Kong from like Skull Island or Kongfrontation? Like that would have been so neat. Like that would have been something we hadn't seen before, like an animatronic human of that size. Granted, it's a lot harder to do, but it would have been a lot cooler. Anyway, that was a bit of a disappointment. And then, I don't know how we got big again. Anyway, it's the giant thing. There's like some laser stuff that's kind of cool. I guess Odie has lasers. Like vision or something. I don't know. Like when you're going kind of up through the like tunnel, there's like a laser and it embiggens you. And like her thing is like, the bigger you are, the bigger the splash. And I remember reading that and constructing like the story, the conceit for the ride and stuff like that. They wanted to make the drop more like family friendly, so people wouldn't be as scared. So it would be open to a wider audience, if you will. But the weird thing about that is the drop is the same. The ride is essentially, the ride track is the same. They can't do anything about that. So does changing the story really make it less scary? I don't know, maybe. But it also kind of makes it a little less fun. Like, I think it's important to have that danger aspect. Like in Splash Mountain, you're being tossed into the briar patch, and Brer Rabbit doesn't care. He loves the briar patch, but like we care, and it's... Listen, sometimes you remember a talking point on the way back to your car, and you have to shoot in the parking lot. It happens, deal with it. Anyway, going back to the darkness of the ride, and it's kind of missing that danger element. People like The Princess and the Frog, but I know they love its villain, Dr. Facility. It's like, why couldn't we incorporate a story where he's trying to come back from like the underworld or something? I think that would have been really cool. It would have added something. I feel like the same thing happens in movies sometimes, where it's a family film, so the filmmakers are a little scared to put something dangerous or dark in it. And you go back and watch some of the older family films, like The Land Before Time. The opening is heartbreaking. It's and the ending is bittersweet. Or The Never-Ending Story. The fucking horse, Artax, gets depressed and drowns himself.
Artax, you're sinking! Come on, turn around! You have to now! Come on, Artax!
Relatable, but the point is, the darkness makes the hero's triumph that much greater. You see what they had to overcome to get to the end. And it's inspiring. In Bayou Adventure, we don't have to overcome anything. It was like literally you overcome a hill, but like nothing narratively, so to speak. That's it. Was it worth it? Was it worth the reshoot? Probably not. Brer Rabbit doesn't care. He loves the briar patch, but like we care. And it goes with the aesthetic of the ride too. Like if you look at Splash Mountain, there's the stump on the end, and And the bramble.
Bramble brand. Bramble's brand cookies. For your grandchildren. Grandchildren.
Reaching up, and then that drop and the giant splash you'd see. And here, it's nice. It's got the, the flora and stuff like that spread out, and the giant water tower. But it's not as, I'm gonna do that again at Disney. It's not as iconic, I guess, if you saw it from afar. But here's the thing: the drop is the same, and the drop is still fun. I love roller coasters, and I love drops. Tower of Terror, the goat. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna get on this thing and not smile as soon as it hits, and you get a little bit wet. That's a lot of fun. Oh my God. And that brings us into the final room, which I kind of wish they had more of that vibe. The final room looks amazing. The song, Special Spice, is really catchy. I think it's written by one of the Spice Girls. It gives you that kind of nice feeling, Everyone knows Zippity Doo Dah, which is kind of funny considering how old it is, but I guess it stood the test of time. I mean, from the 40s, it was the second Disney song to win an Oscar for Best Song, right after When You Wish Upon a Star from Pinocchio. But this is a really great song too. It's a really nice room, and I kind of wish we could live in that world a little bit longer. Because you're in, it's oh, this looks really nice, and then it's back into darkness, and the shrubbery and stuff like that, and Odie's there. Odie? That's the dog from Garfield, right? I just don't know. I did a little bit of research, but I'm bad with names. I'm sorry. Anyway, so that's it. So I guess some of the complaints I've been reading ahead of time have just been hey, the ride story is not as good. And to an extent, no. As far as a self-contained story for the ride, it doesn't have those natural ups and downs narratively that you kind of want in a ride that and the best rides, I'd say, has that narrative that really hits home and really complements everything you're going through. However, I think it's the same ride track. It's a fun ride still. I certainly don't really have any complaints. I didn't have any issues, anything broken down. I was lucky enough to get in the morning, the first hour of park open. I would advise that, if possible, because there was a 10-minute wait. As I was leaving, there was a much longer wait. It probably looks closer to 20, 30 minutes. So at the end of the day, it's good. It's good. I think there are some areas where they could have really did something special. I'm not sure if the shrinking, I like the shrinking aspect, but we kind of have a ride that does that, in Ratatouille, whatever that ride is called, so we kind of have that feel of what it's like to be small, and I think it's just kind of I don't know, a little half-assed, but at least they could have made that room a lot cooler. I think for me, the appeal of what can be done with this area is the foods and the smells and the characters. It's you have the ride, yes, but I want to go out and get some of the food, and stuff like that. And they have some limited time foods for the next couple months, so I would definitely advise checking that out. We'll probably do a video on that in the future. I don't know, maybe eating it in less than 60 seconds. I like to force Alexa to do a lot of silly things, so I think that might have to happen. But overall, it was fine. It was fun. Today happens to be Father's Day, and my dad loved theme parks. And he would take me and my sister every time to Disney or Universal when they would open up a new ride. And I remember when Splash Mountain here opened. I remember it was a delayed opening too, because it's supposed to open here, and then it got delayed a month, and so we finally came back and rode it, and it was awesome. So it's kind of nice to relive that in a different way. Times change, things change. Embrace the change. Could they have done a little bit better? Yes. But it's still a fun ride. Nothing to cry about. Anyway, that's it. Take care.